So now then, let's talk about body hair. It's normal. Most of us have it, but some decide to shave, wax and remove it from some areas of their body, but not our next guest.
Well, for the last 3 years, Bethany Burgoyne has embraced her body hair, letting the hair on her legs, armpits and face grow out. And she says she is more confident now being hairy than she's ever been. And she's here now, and it's lovely to meet you.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in today.
Nice to meet you.
So this is due to, we think, because you haven't had a diagnosis, polycystic ovary syndrome. But you don't know about that. We'll come to that in just a moment, because obviously before puberty, before that could all start to kick in, you were much younger when it started to manifest itself, weren't you?
Yeah, I think like a lot of girls, when you're going through that teenage transition, around 10, I started to have body hair, you know, hair on my legs, on my armpits, and I was encouraged by the women around me to get rid of it. And I think that is the normal narrative that we grew up with, especially a girl in the 90s, you know, that was everything you saw. So over time, I just became more aware that my body hair was growing in excess and it was darker, and especially around my face. And there were areas like my belly and my face and my nipples that generally we don't see women having hair at all. So it was like, well, I can't have it. I've got to get rid of it. This isn't right. And also, therefore, I'm not going to be deemed attractive if I have my body hair. Yeah. So there's a lot of sort of questions I've asked myself about how I am maybe sexualising my own body, but also the pressure that we have as women to maintain a certain standard. And when you're going through teenage years, how that really leaves an indent on how you're going to go into being an adult, share your body with other people, present yourself in every form of your life.
Because I think that when you're a kid, especially when sort of those puberty years, or sort of 10 and onwards, the last thing you want to do is stand out in any way that's different to any of your friends. I mean, it's the nightmare. You just want to be a sheep in a crowd and that's it. So what sort of reaction were you getting from friends at that time?
I went to a boarding school, so I was living with a lot of girls, and so we were seeing each other, you know, 24/7 in every way. And so together, there was that general comparison, like, oh, I'm starting to get more hair here. Have you got it? So they were quite supportive. And I think, yeah, luckily, but it was the boys who would find a reason to tease me. And I think as girls, maybe we become like insecure in ourselves rather than learning to stick up for ourselves and saying, just because I'm a female-bodied person doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have body hair. It's like, it's not what we're seeing, it's not the norm. So I was picked on and bullied a little bit for that.
Well, those are the worst years anyway, aren't they? I mean, if life wasn't tough enough as a teenager, trying to figure out how things are, your place in the world, who you are, what you do, what's expected of you. For you, what did that do to your head?
I think I'm all right mentally, but I think it just made me feel like I had to go above and beyond to conform, to feel confident by doing something to change myself. And that's been the biggest journey, especially now. It's like, I don't want to change anything, and I want every person, whatever gender you are, to feel good in your skin.
But that takes remarkable strength, not to hide away, not to keep the waxing and keep the threading and all of those sort of things, but to say, no, actually, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It's 3 years, and lockdown really helped because it was like, I can do this on my own, and I use social media a lot to provoke conversation. So it's like, look at me here. I'm showing you with my armpit hair. I've got sweat. It's not what you're used to seeing. How are you going to respond? And how does it make you feel about your own things? You know, like, we have things. Maybe it's a verruca, maybe it's a labia being longer than the other, whatever it is, it's like, it's part of you. So how can we start to stop judging one another and fearing the negative reaction?
Do you think, actually, and when you said that you started to show on social media kind of your journey and document it so people can see it, do you think part of the problem is that we all sort of end up like carbon copies of each other? We all sort of kind of whittle our bits down into the same shapes as everybody else's so that we're deemed what is considered the norm, if you like, the acceptable face of what is beautiful for a female, I guess. So do you think, actually, by everybody just embracing it and showing it and being more natural, that what becomes normal will become different because we're seeing it more?
Yeah, I think it's that, you know, when you talk about being a teenager and following the crowd and fitting a carbon copy, we don't lose that. In fact, I think sometimes it becomes worse. But it's like, OK, now you take on this job role, so you have to appear this way, or maybe you become a mother, so you're expected to perform to this standard. Actually, everyone has a different journey, a different reality, and a different appearance. And there's other people out there who will come to you, who will affiliate and be like, I like that, or this is what I'm into. So I think we need more representation in general, of course, across race, transphobia, fat phobia, these are all very serious things. For me, the hair is another part in helping women understand you don't need to be spending your time and your money on controlling this thing to feel good. You can spend it on building your career, on doing that adventure that you've always wanted to do, on supporting people who need your monetary support or confidence. You know, it's just like all these things, I feel like they hold us back.
Well, I mean, there are millions of women in the world who have polycystic ovary syndrome. As we said at the beginning, you believe that that could be what it might be. They will all be living with it to different degrees. It may be increased hair, it may be sporadic periods, it could be weight gain, all of those sort of things. But you said here now, saying if that's what it is, then embrace it, embrace yourself, be yourself.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm so focused on female reproductive health and raising a bit more awareness about PCOS is that it's very common. And again, there's a lack of research. We need more understanding. And women need to be able to track their cycles, their symptoms, to know whether there's something going on in there, because it can affect your fertility and your mental health. You know, these are very serious topics, and I write about it a lot. For me, it's like PCOS, one of the symptoms is hair growth. I hate saying it's excessive hair growth, because it's like, I don't want...
For who?
Yeah, for who?
Yeah.
To what standard? My mum has hardly any hair. My dad's super hairy. So for me, I'm like, maybe it's a gene thing. But it's also important to be like, OK, how else is it possibly going to be affected by my womb space? By things that we need more research about to understand further, because for other women, PCOS can really be... It can be such an awful situation, you know, like it can really damage their life if they go undiagnosed,
Undiagnosed, yeah.
I know.
undiagnosed with it. Yeah, it's traumatic. The same with PMDD, like all these conditions that are real, they're there, but people don't discuss.
Agreed.
Well, we're glad you're here discussing it today.
I'm glad you know about it too. You know, it's like having it with different genders is really important. It's not just a female conversation. All of this is like, I talk to a lot of men who will come up to me and be like, you know, why have you got a beard? Or how come you keep your hair? Because I think for
And are you happy to answer those questions?
I am. Sometimes I have to compose myself not to be angry and super defensive, but most of the time it's like, yeah, let's talk about this, because I hope that maybe you'll see another woman and you'll already understand that it's a choice.
It'll just be normal and you won't even have to ask that question, You know? Well, it's great to meet you.
Thank you so
very
much
much.
for having
It's our
me.
pleasure. Thank you.
It's a real
Thank you.
privilege.
Thank you.